What is going on, everyone? It is Zach, and today I wanted to talk about Pokemon Champions. Honestly, because I still have some questions that are unanswered, and I've been hearing other people in the community talk about it as well. We want to know, hopefully, we get at least some information, maybe a shadow drop on Pokemon Day. But until then, I want to talk about some things I've heard in videos and what I think might be the solution to some concerns or reactions to what people are saying. So there's really three things I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about Sableye VGC's video where he hopes he's wrong about Pokemon Champions, but he thinks it might be a mistake for the competitive Pokemon scene in some aspects, and I want to kind of respond to that. I want to talk about CK9's video where he talked about all the information that he's noticed and he's seen about Pokemon Champions with the news that we've gotten so far through trailers and websites. And then I also want to talk about a post from the Hidden Power podcast. I didn't watch the podcast where they talked about it, but they posted an image on Twitter where it was a leak from later in last year that talked about information about Pokemon Champions. If you guys enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, hype it up if you can, and let me know in the comments down below, are you excited about Pokemon Champions? Do you think that it's going to benefit the VGC community in the long run? Let me know in the comments down below. But first, that's really what Sableye was talking about, was losing growth. And he really spoke on the fact that every time a new generation gets announced, we get more VGC players. Recently, CRB announced the new updates for, the sales numbers for generations of Pokemon. And when I started competitive around Sun and Moon, there was about 18 million in sales between Sun and Moon, and then Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet had 28,000 or 28 million. So that's another 10 million people that can eventually become VGC players. And so we have seen large booms over the years. I know myself as someone who tried and started creating content in Sword and Shield, where there's so many more people now playing VGC, making VGC content, and it's amazing to see. But Sableye worries that once that big boom from Pokemon Champion goes away, how do you get new players into VGC? How do you get people who Generation 10 is their first Pokemon game, or Generation 11 is their first Pokemon game? How do you get them into Pokemon Champions when it's not connected to the mainline games, where you have to download a separate application and get a separate team to even start VGC? And I want to say the one thing that I think they could do to get players drawn into VGC, or at least Pokemon Champions to play it, is one, have a casual single player experience within Pokemon Champions. And I can talk about a little bit more about that in the Hidden Power podcast post where they posted some information that was put online. But I also think that they could do events similar to what we saw with Global Link. Now, Global Link started way back in the Black and White generation, and they kept it going all the way up through the DS's lifespan and the 3DS's lifespan. And it was a website where you connected your Pokemon account, you connected your Nintendo account, and you were able to see results and sign up for tournaments and stuff. This is how championship points were given out for Sun and Moon tournaments. You had to have your DS connected to the Global Link to get your results posted for them to count. Now with the Nintendo Switch, when we sign up for global challenges or grand challenges on Scarlet and Violet, we just have to have our Nintendo account connected to our Pokemon account. But before that, there was the Global Link. And what the Global Link would do is, for certain tournaments, they would have events and give away event Pokemon as a reward for participating. If you make it so you can get Pokemon, special Pokemon, that are in Generation 10, whatever's coming next in Generation 11, that could draw people in. That could be a way I want that shiny Pokemon. They did that with Terra raids in the Scarlet and Violet generation, but we saw this in 2018 and 2019 with the shiny Tapus. If you wanted a shiny Tapu Lele, or shiny Tapu Bulu, or shiny Tapu Fini, you had to play at least 3 battles of international challenges, or online challenges, which would be global challenges now. They also did this for a shiny Mimikyu if you played the Spooky Cup in 2018. So having events like that where you incentivize players who want that Pokemon to come in, that would be a way to get players from the mainline games into it. Hey, I want this legendary Pokemon. It's shiny locked in Generation 10, but if I do this tournament and play 3 battles, I'll get it in my Pokemon home. That could be a way that they get players later on in Champions lifespan, later on in Generation 10, Generation 11, into VGC. Because there are going to be some people that try it, they try to build a team, and they go, hey, I really like this, I think this is fun. And then they get into the VGC. Next, Sableye talks about how often is Champions going to get updated. He kind of joked about like the Champions 2 that we don't know exist yet. And I think that is going to be a challenge for Game Freak and Pokemon Works, the combination of Game Freak and Ilka that are going to be working on Pokemon Champions. So before, when you were updating a game or software like Pokemon Home, you really had to... Well, Pokemon Home's a bad example because it's on mobile too. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, for example, if you wanted to get it to work, you really had 4 different systems. You had the Switch Lite, the OG Switch, the Switch OLED, and the Switch 2 that you had to make sure works. That's only 4 systems, and they're running the same operating system. They're running the same system, so you really just have to worry about certain like CPU speeds, and that's about it. But now with mobile devices coming into the mix, if you want an update to go, you have to make sure that it comes out for iOS, for Android. You have to make sure it works for all these different Android phones and the Switch systems. So I think that might be a big hurdle for something that will hopefully be this big, right? Now there's so many other devices that you have to worry that Pokemon Champions works well, because whether you have a year or 2-year-old Galaxy, the newest iPhone, or maybe you're using a Android device that is in the $300 price range, that might be a year or 2 old. Is it going to run Pokemon Champions as good as the Nintendo Switch? Is it going to run it properly? Because when people have an issue with their apps, with their games, they don't sit there and go, oh, well, it's the device, like I'm not running the highest tier device. They're going to just outright look at the company and go, oh, this app stinks. It doesn't work on my phone. So I think that might be a challenge on getting updates to Pokemon Champions. That being said, we already go 3, in Scarlet and Violet's case, almost 4 years without an update to our competitive graphics. We've been playing on Scarlet and Violet for quite a while now. And so if you are updating the models every generation, I could live with that. I could live with every couple of years, hey, we got new models, like this looks updated, let's see how it looks. But I think more features and more things need to be added at least yearly. So by the 1-year anniversary, there should be more features. There should be a way to share replays. There should be some kind of social aspect to Pokemon Champions. Will they add all these things? I don't know. But I think to keep it engaging and keeping people on Pokemon Champions, there needs to be some form of updates. But I think, like I said, with all these devices, it's going to be a big issue. Now, when we talk about it from like a tournament aspect, we've already seen their solution with how they're handling Pokemon Unite at EUIC. So at EUIC, there is a list of approved devices. If you do not have an approved device, you will be given a tournament device to rent out. With things like Pokemon Unite, you just have to sign into your account. With things like Pokemon Champions, you might just need a rental code or sign into your account just like you do at Unite. But once again, that limits how many devices are usable. Hopefully, they're going to have enough devices. So if you come in with that $300 phone and you want to play the tournament, you're able to do that. But it might be a challenge at the beginning. It really might. And people weren't happy with the approved phone list for Pokemon Unite. So that complaint is going to be echoed again. When that, we'll probably see the same list. I'll have it posted in the video. We're probably going to see that same list again for approved devices for Pokemon Champions. And heck, we might even see less devices on it because that list came out a couple months ago. Next, when he talks about how often is this going to get updated, he talks about how we're just tired of playing VGC on Scarlet and Violet. And I feel it. As someone who can't go to big tournaments very often, and their closest local is once a month, 40 minutes away, that I usually can't make it to because I have other commitments on the weekends. It's hard. It's hard to sit there and go, oh yeah, I want to sit and play the same game that I've been playing for 4 years now. So I definitely feel it. I definitely agree. And I think that might be an issue if they're not adding new features, if they're not updating things, are incentivizing people coming in new and people coming back to VGC with Pokemon Champions. Next, Sableye is worried about this just being a battle simulator and it being bland and boring. And I see what he's saying, but when we talk about the Hidden Power podcast post from this rumor that they saw a couple of months ago, they are talking about a Battle Frontier-like situation. So hopefully there is a single player experience with Pokemon Champions that will keep people engaged and draw people in. I know that for the past couple of games, everyone's talked about how they want the Battle Frontier back. Oraz didn't have the Battle Frontier and people lost their minds. The battle tree in Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon wasn't the same. Like, people want to battle, and if Champions is that place where they can get that experience, that might help draw people in. And when it comes to being more than a battle simulator and people getting bored with Pokemon Champions, I want to say Pokemon with Champions is kind of looking at other big competitive games. Your Overwatches, your Rocket Leagues, your Fortnites, these all have competitive aspects, and these games don't get updated that often either. Overwatch went years before it got Overwatch 2. Things like CSGO, like Counter-Strike, their games, their versions, they stay in their lifespan for a very long time. They're bigger games competitively, but I think that's what Pokemon is really shooting for. I think they're shooting for a platform that can get updated every couple years, and it's going to be the place for the competitive. But I do agree with Sableye, how after that hype dies down, after Champions' initial release, when Gen 10 and Gen 11 come out, how do you get people back in? That's going to be the big challenge, and I really hope they handle it well. Next, Sableye kind of talks about the loss of magic, and I can agree with this. As someone who started playing Pokemon in 1998, well, not 1998, 2000, 2001 with Pokemon Yellow, how hard is that if you get a Pokemon in Generation 10 and you're like, oh, I have to do all these things to move it over if I want to use it in Champions. And I also want to use that Pokemon in Generation 10. So that's going to be a really hard balance, and it's going to be less of a connection to the Pokemon you're using. So I agree, Sableye, I feel you. I might be someone who plays too much Pokemon, but I love using my Tyrantars. I love using my shiny Tyrantars. I love hunting for the Pokemon that I want to use, And there is a little bit of a disconnect when you're just picking Pokemon off of a list. And those Pokemon have no adventures, they have no travels, they have no story with you. I do agree with that. It sounds childish, but like Pokemon's a kid's game at the end of the day. So we can be a little childish about it. As I have a shelf full of plushies behind me. Like, and that's what's great about Pokemon. Sableye said this as well. Like, there are so many different ways that you can play and enjoy Pokemon, and that's what's great about it. But the whole point of Pokemon from the beginning was taking these little creatures on your adventure, building a relationship and a friendship with them. And now Pokemon Champions is going to be less of that and more competitive. So it's going to be hard. I'm still going to have my favorites. I'm still going to hopefully move older Pokemon in from Pokemon Home. But like Sableye says, we still don't know what the conditions are going to be for transferring Pokemon from Pokemon Home. Right now, the information that we have just says connect it to Pokemon Home. It should be connected day one. But is this going to be the only way that we get IVs that aren't 31? Is the Pokemon that we bring into Pokemon Champions, are they stuck there forever, or is it just a copy? Or is it going to be one of those things where it's kind of like a carte blanche, like, oh, we see you have a Rillaboom in Pokemon Home. You can pick Rillaboom from Pokemon Home. We see you have a shiny one too. You can pick the shiny one instead. And once again, that's still, if I'm just creating Pokemon off of what I have on Pokemon Home, that's still not my Pokemon. So I want to see where the connectivity is. I want to see if there's any benefits to actually catching and obtaining Pokemon your own rather than just grabbing them off of a list in Pokemon Champions. I hope there's a benefit because I agree with Sableye and there needs to be that magic. And the last thing that Sableye really talks about is free to start. And that concerns me as well. But really what it probably just means is a battle pass. We're probably going to see a battle pass for trainer customization. And Audi CK49 talks about this as well. And I'll add his input as well when we talk about like what I noticed from his video. But there's probably just going to be trainer customization. I don't know if we're going to see skins with Pokemon, but it's probably going to be a battle pass. What I am worried about is, I don't know if you play it often, but I loaded up Unite for the first time on my Switch 2 in a very long time. I probably play Unite twice a year. There's so much stuff. I'll probably have some footage post on, but there's so much stuff on the home screen. And when you first log in, especially if you haven't logged in a while, there are so many things to check and so many boxes and so many events and so many this and that and pass and popsicles. You got to get some popsicles. If you don't have enough popsicles, you can eat a popsicle or you can buy a popsicle. It's crazy. There's so much going on in Pokemon Unite. It's very overwhelming. So for someone like me, I hope that Champions doesn't look like whatever Pokemon Unite is. The game, when you get into a match, it's fun. But everything outside of that game in Pokemon Unite, all those boxes, all those events, to me it just says, do you want to spend money or do you want to grind? And I don't want to see that in Pokemon Champions. Battle Pass, great. Give me a new set of items and new sets of skins every month or two. And make me pay a couple bucks every month for a battle pass. The one thing that I saw in earlier battle passes that you don't see as much anymore, and this is from my experience of years ago when I played Apex Legends or I played Fortnite, is that when you bought the battle pass, you could earn currency to buy the next battle pass. It kind of rewarded you where like you could grind it out, buy one battle pass and earn enough credits to just never pay for a battle pass again. I think a lot of companies dropped that because they weren't making as much money, but I would love to see that, and we're probably going to get a battle pass. Let's be real. Now, Audi CK9's video, he's super interested in Pokemon Champions as a longtime competitive player, just like Sableye. And he talks about how there is a starter pack bundle with the free to start game. And like I said, this is probably going to be a special badge, a special like trainer frame, a special trainer t-shirt that says like Pokemon Champions, like day one. But this is probably where we're going to see those battle passes and those bundles where, like, if you want special outfits and you want this and that, you're going to have to pay real money for it. He also talked about how victory points, VP, the item, the currency that you use to buy Pokemon from Pokemon Champions to customize the EVs, to change the moves, to change the natures, can't be purchased. And that's something they're very clear about. But something that Audie brought up is that as any free-to-play game or free-to-start game does, there are ways around it. There really are. It could be like, hey, if you buy our paid currency, we'll also throw in some free victory points. So you're not buying the victory points, but you're buying the currency, but you're getting bonus victory points. That's something that a lot of free-to-start games will do. And so, yeah, you're not buying the victory points, but if you buy the currency, you also get victory points in that process. So I agree with Audie. There are definitely ways around it. And I hope that Pokemon, especially being a game where the main target is children, they don't do that. But I have little faith in freemium, free to play, free to start games in 2026, even from Pokemon. The next thing that Audie talks about in his video is not fully evolved Pokemon or NFE Pokemon. The only one visible in the trailers is Pikachu. Of course, Pikachu is going to be in any Pokemon game, being the mascot of the series. But when you think about VGC, there's also things like Clefairy. There are certain Pokemon that take advantage of Eviolite that we would like to see. So this kind of comes with the post that we saw from the Hidden Power podcast that I'll talk about in a moment. But what is the list of Pokemon going to look like, and how are they going to count that list? This could be a very big list of Pokemon. It could be smaller if they bring in Pokemon that are not fully evolved. Now, when we look at the Hidden Power podcast, their post is from, honestly, I don't know where it's from, but it's people talking about it. I don't know if it's insider talk or necessarily a leak, but it talked about one Pokemon Home coming out in January 23rd of 26, which we are past that. So that didn't happen. So how true is this? They talked about 350 Pokemon being in Pokemon Champions at launch, adding more each new season. What is a season? Is a season a format, or is a season a year in VGC? This also goes with the question that Audie had about not fully evolved Pokemon. This makes me question availability even more. That 350 Pokemon, is it a curated list? Is this the end of Little Cup? How are you going to grab other Pokemon for casual battles if you don't want to play with the VGC Pokemon? Will this actually be 350 competitively viable Pokemon? Or will it be about 120 Pokemon, because if you're getting Incineroar, you're also getting Litten and Torracat as well. So is Incineroar one Pokemon, or is the Incineroar line 3 Pokemon? We're going to have to see how they play it. From what we've seen with the trailers and Pokemon Champions, it looks like it's going to be 350 viable Pokemon. Viable depending on what the Pokemon is. But if it is just Incineroar and you don't get access to Litten and Torracat because this is a VGC competitive oriented game, what does this have to do with people that do want to play casually and do want to use a Litten or Slowpoke? This cuts down on the creativity of teams, because we've seen people in Scarlet and Violet, Sword and Shield, make funny meme teams where they take a non-viable Pokemon and they build a team around it. I think that might limit it. The post that the Hidden Power podcast also brought up was Battle Frontier modes available. And that's kind of where I wanted to bring up that, like, Sable and I talked about, like, how do you get casuals in and keeping good single player content, even though this is a mobile game, even though this is focused towards the multiplayer and the competitive aspects of it. You also need single player content for people to play, and the Battle Frontier could definitely be a way to draw people in. The post that the Hidden Power podcast talked about said rental teams are not available for ranked mode, and I don't know how I feel about that. Now, it makes sense. Towards the end of Scarlet and Violet, I started getting annoyed of seeing the same team over and over again, and especially if it's like hyper offense or something like gimmicky, and it's just like you wouldn't have made that on your own. You just grabbed that off the internet, and it kind of stifled. It stifled, and then it encouraged creativity at the same time. It's really hard to explain, but having rental teams not available for ranked mode kind of says that they want people to play the game and they want people to build their own teams, which is good, but it could also discourage a lot of people, and it also discourages information sharing. One really beneficial thing about these rental codes that even if the paste wasn't given out, you could borrow that team with the rental code, use it, and look at the stats and start to reverse engineer a team. And we could learn so much about a team just from a rental code. And as people realize this, they stopped sharing rental codes as often. But in Sword and Shield, like, rental codes were shared all the time. You could grab almost any team. And so rental codes not being available for ranked, while I do get it, I do not think that's not the best choice. But I get it. If you want people playing ranked, you also want them having their own merit and earning it with their own team. So I see where it makes sense, but I also see where it doesn't make sense if rental codes aren't really available for the ranked mode. And the last one is from the post from the Hidden Power podcast, is that the difference between the victory points, the VP, and the currency. VP will be used to tweak and customize the Pokemon and purchase new Pokemon to use from Pokemon Champions, while currency will be used for items like stadium skins, clothes, and exclusive held items. That last part, exclusive held items, kind of worries me. This kind of comes back to the conversation of Urshifu only being in DLC, right? Do I have to use currency to buy the Alpha Orb to get my Primal Kyogre? Is that going to be locked? What does it mean by exclusive items? I think, especially the fact that it says exclusive held items, so that infers that we're using them in battle. Are these exclusive held items going to be available for VGC? I don't know. We'll have to see what that looks like, but that kind of confirms what I thought with the monetization of this, where the currency is going to be used for stadium skins, clothing, trainer customization, icons, frames, like all that stuff. And we'll probably see it in the form of a battle pass. Like, that's just how games work now. We'll probably see a battle pass where you spend so much currency every month or so, and you can get so many items. And then there will be items that you can just buy with currency. Hopefully it's not too egregious, but we'll have to see where it goes. Anyways, that's really, I saw those 3 videos and I was just like, oh, I want to give my input, but like, I also want to talk about what they're talking about as well. And some things I agree with, some things I disagree with, but either way, I'm super excited for Champions. Having something new to play VGC, even if I don't go to a lot of locals, even though I probably won't go to another regional this year, this competitive season, Pokemon Champions is something that I can't wait to jump into, and I hope you will be here for it. If you want to, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments below. Is there anything you heard today that you are worried about with Pokemon Champions? Is there anything you heard that makes you excited even more for Pokemon Champions? Let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hype the video, all that good stuff. And until next time, I'm Zach, and we'll see everyone later.